Item number G is report and discussion on rental unit inspections. At the June 18th, 2012 City Commission meeting, the Commission scheduled a discussion on possible rental inspection program for the City of Sault Ste. Marie and holding that discussion at the July 16th, 2012 meeting. I indicated that I would provide information from previous discussions regarding rental inspection for your review at this meeting. Again, we have, this issue has had a fairly long discussion with the Commission, with the first discussion of rental licensing being initiated back in 1988. At that point, the City Commission adopted a resolution that established a goal of upgrading the quality of rental housing stock within the city. At that time, the Planning and Development Commission was charged with the responsibility of evaluating various alternatives and making a recommendation to the City Commission on reaching this goal. In 1990, the Planning and Development Commission submitted a report to the City Commission encompassing a 5-point plan for addressing the city's rental housing stock, with the centerpiece of the report being a rental licensing ordinance. The Commission opted not to go forward with the new ordinance at that time, and that basically ended that first effort. The second initiative occurred in 1997, with the Commission requesting the Planning and Development Commission update the original study and draft of an ordinance regarding rental housing. The Planning and Development Commission held a public workshop and public hearings upon initiating a rental registration program. And so that second effort really resulted in the establishment of a rental registration program, with that program being the result of extensive dialogue between the city's landlords and the Planning Commission, as well as the City Commission. The Commission opted not to go forward with rental licensing as part of this effort. In 2012, the City Commission discussed rental inspection again. This was based in part on a requirement in the Little Italy MSHDA project, where MSHDA was requiring or indicated that they wanted to see communities implement a rental licensing program. In the end, MSHDA did accept the rental registration program as adequate for the purposes of the Little Italy grant, and that discussion ended at that point. In 2005, the City Commission met in work session to establish goals for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2006. One of the goals was to explore the implementation of rental inspection program for the City of Sault Ste. Marie. In the goal-setting session held on January 18th, 2006, a year later, the City Commission removed the goal of implementing a rental inspection program for the City of Sault Ste. Marie as part of the review of the existing goals and adoption of new goals for that year. We did compile summaries of the various reports that have been done in the past, which were included in this packet. Ordinance Enforcement Officer Robert Brown also compiled information from our peer cities, which included Alpena, Big Rapids, Cadillac, Traverse City, Escanaba, and Marquette. These are all cities 10,000 or greater north of Mount Pleasant. Everyone except for Marquette responded to the survey, and there's some general information for your review that we provided on their rental inspection programs in the other communities. The rental inspection issue is obviously one that that has drawn quite a bit of interest in discussions from time to time with the city and among the landowners. And I just unfortunately deleted my report here, but I got close enough to the end where I think I can do the rest from memory. But anyway, I think there's some valid issues for rental inspection. There's valid concerns about a rental inspection program. And before we go any further with this particular effort, I think it was important for the Commission to have this discussion after reviewing the past efforts to determine whether this is something we want to reinitiate discussions on or not at this time. We do have a number of people that have asked to speak on this item, which the Mayor can recognize at the completion of my report. And then I think following hearing from the folks that wanted to speak on this issue, I think it'd be helpful for the commission to provide some input and some direction as far as what you want us to do in this matter going forward. I think the other thing I would recommend is if the commission wants to continue exploring this particular issue, we've always had our major public hearings at the end of the process. I would recommend that we really have a public hearing and have as much dialogue at the front end of the process to determine where we're going to go. Because from a staff standpoint, we have spent quite a bit of time on these issues in the past, and we haven't, haven't ever approved a full rental inspection program. We did do the rental registration program, which has been, I think, helpful in understanding who to contact and who owns the various properties in the community. But if the commission's interested in exploring this, it might be appropriate to have a full public hearing first in the process and then give us direction going on after that particular time. That's just a thought on this issue, having been involved in 3 of the last 4 discussions on this matter. So. Okay, thank you. Let's start with folks that wanted to talk. I think we'll go by order of how you came forward. So let's let Jim McLeod go first.
Jim McLeod. I'm a local landlord. My wife and I are partners, and we've been in this business 37 years. We were here in 1988 when this first became an issue. In 1988, the general consensus seemed to be at that time, there's always a period of time when there are a group of people who are dissatisfied with landlords and with the rental properties that they have, and there are some that are not as nice as others, or some that are not habitable. There are also some very nice ones. But the consensus at that time, or there were a couple of commissioners who were pushing the rental licensing program at that time. The net result was that the city attorney was asked his advice at the end, and it's Mr. Canello, still the attorney, and if I'm wrong on this, please correct me, Mr. Canello, but when he was asked his opinion of this, he said he thought it was a bad idea, that the city would be subjecting themselves to a lot of liability, and that there were enough laws on the books currently, if they were enforced appropriately, to address those issues. Mr. Neveu, who was the building inspector at the time, was asked by me if there were enough laws, as Mr. Canello had stated, currently on the books, enough laws and regulations, that if they were applied appropriately, would solve the problem. He indicated at that time that that the main problem was rental registration. Rental registration has come into effect, and it seems as if that issue would have been addressed at that time. I understand that it's come about several more times since then, and I've been at most of the meetings concerning that, and it appears as if Mr. Neveu's opinion continued to be the same, and I believe Mr. Canello's, although I don't profess to speak for him certainly, but it appeared as if his opinion was the same, that it wasn't necessary and it subjected the city to a lot of liability. I don't know if Ms. Batista's opinion is the same as Mr. Neveu's, but that's what, that's certainly open to discussion at this point. What I have a problem with, and it's not with the inspection, one of my properties was brought to the Commission's attention a week or so ago. I invited the Commission to come and inspect that property as it was, with nothing done to it. Mr. Nebel, Ms. Batista, Mr. Brown came back through and re-inspected it, nothing done to it, and if you want any input from them, I'm sure they'll be able to give you input regarding that property. I don't have a problem with inspections. My tenants, however, might have a problem with it. And that is, they might want to be able to enjoy the quiet use of their homes, which they have no problems with, without having to have their constitutionally guaranteed right to privacy being invaded. I would have a problem with that if I were a tenant. I would have a problem with that as a homeowner. If I had a problem with the home and invited you in, absolutely. They should be afforded the same rights. One of my problems is, and I don't want
Jim,
this to be...
Could you just move the mic toward you?
Oh, certainly. One of my problems with this is, and I don't want this to appear to be a personal attack, because it's not. Commissioner Shimmons, I've known for many years. I think she did a fine job running Sioux Housing. Whether I agree with the Sioux Housing tenants or not, that's not tenants, but policies, that's a different story. I think she did an excellent job of running it. She and her husband were neighbors of ours, and we've known each other for quite some time. I think a lot of her. However, there's been some discussion on Facebook separate from this, but the way, and I just read it briefly before I came to the meeting this evening, what she said basically, and I'm paraphrasing this, so Pat, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you stated that we have been trying since 1980 to get a rental licensing program in effect. And I'm not sure who we is, because the commission in 1988 said we don't want to pursue that route. Based on the city attorney's advice, based on the building inspector's advice, we don't want to proceed that way. So that was the city attorney's opinion, that was the building inspector's opinion, and that was the commission's decision as a whole.
May I just respond to that?
Certainly.
The chat was,
Excuse me, no, you can't. And not at this time, you may have been.
Sorry. Also at that time, I did have an issue with the concept that the person who was put in charge of researching whether a rental licensing program should be implemented, to check out the pros and cons and look at licensing procedures in other cities, was Mrs. Schimmann's husband, Bob. And again, I think a lot of Bob. I think he did a good job. But what he came back with was not like a balanced concept. These are the pros, these are the cons. He came back with a fully developed program. Took a lot of work. I'm sure he worked really
I don't know
diligently
what
on
you're
it.
talking about. Could you back up? And
Sure.
Pat, excuse me. Just let him do his thing and then we can, thank you.
Anyway, if I'm wrong in that, I'm sorry, and I would apologize. And again, I just think it was inappropriate for him to be the person in charge of that commission and the recommendation the way it was recommended. I didn't think it was appropriate then, and I don't know if that's the we, I guess, we've been trying since 1988. So that's what I have to see. Furthermore, on the Facebook page, it said, anyone who would like to comment supporting rental licensing, please respond. And there was no room for discussion as to negative opinions. Albeit after that, in the discussion, Pat suggested that anybody opposing certainly was welcome to comment as well, but it just seems to be somewhat loaded towards the licensing program. Again, I don't have a problem with inspections. I'd be happy to open up my houses in between tenants if you want to come inspect the houses. I don't think it's needed. I think it's a bad plan for the city. And that's my opinion regarding that. As far as the financial aspects regarding rental licensing or being a landlord in Sault Ste. Marie, I don't think it's possible today with the tax structure and the utility structure. I don't think anybody today can buy a house that would be acceptable to this commission or to the building inspection department and start. I would never even think about starting. I've got a very extensive library about real estate investing. I wouldn't even think of starting as a real estate investor in Sault Ste. Marie. There's no way to show a profit if you start out and you have to finance your properties. The only way we're still in business is because we have a fair amount of equity in the properties. If we had to buy them, I don't know if I have time to do this or not. I'm going to skip over a lot of the figures. If you would like, anybody would like to discuss this after the meeting, I'd be happy to do that. I picked a rent of $600 per month. And with the rent of $600, I did it for this reason, because at $40,000, that's what would be required to even break even. Would be $600 a month. That's $40,000 total investment in a house. If you were starting out with a 20% down payment, and the banks may require a 25% down payment, financing $32,000 with allowing $10 per month per debt service on it, you would end up losing $115 a month. That's at $40,000. There aren't many $40,000 houses that are going to meet the requirements of the building inspection department. At $50,000, you can add about another $100 deficit. And at $60,000, another $100 deficit. There is no way to make money in Sault Ste. Marie as a landlord today, starting out. I have no idea why anybody would do it. I certainly wouldn't do it. If somebody wanted to buy my houses right now for 80% of their value, I'd sell them in a heartbeat. So that's how that boils down. That deficit also that I'm talking about, that doesn't include more subjective numbers like vacancy, maintenance and repair, upgrading, advertising, accounting or legal services, any special assessments, any registration fees, any inspection fees, or any compliance costs. That doesn't include that. So I don't know how it can be viewed that these are the Sioux housing rental stocks, because it's not. It's my house. It's my wife's house. It's Stephanie's house. It's Marilyn's house. It's not the Sioux stocks. It's ours, and we can't run it the way you want it run. We can make them be as safe as we can. We can make them comply as much as we can. We can be as ethical as we can possibly be, but